Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for the May edition of Halloween and Holiday Addicts Anonymous. This month we're going to delve into a little bit of spring. It's starting to warm up here and my grass is starting to turn green, which is always a good thing for this Cali girl. That's the thing I miss the most, is green grass year round. Anyway, we are going to be working on another little call bell. And so what we're going to do this time is we're going to turn our call bell into a beautiful zinnia bloom with some little bees around the bottom. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here's what we're going to start with. This little, I think it's 3¼ inches or 3½ inch call bell that you can get on Amazon. You can get them in multiples of 6 or 12 or 24, depending on how many you want to paint. I know there are lots of cute designs out there, so you're not limited to just what I come up with, obviously. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to prime your bell. We don't want to paint on this shiny thing. All right, so I just use a Rust-Oleum primer. It's light, flat gray. I get it at Home Depot. I'm sure you could find it at Lowe's too. And I just give it a coat of this gray primer so that I have a nice surface to paint on. One of the first things we want to do is we want to paint this base with a coat or two of baby blue. And I want to go ahead and get that paint up around the edge, under that top of that bell. So stick it back there as far as you can get it. It's probably about 1/4 inch up in there. And this is going to take 2 coats. So I will be back when I have my second coat on. All right, so I've got a nice blue base on this bell. I'm going to take some black forest green and I'm going to paint the top of the bell part itself, and I'm even going to slap some onto the plunger. Okay, and this is going to take 2 coats too. And this is going to go all the way down even onto this little lip that's on the top of the bell. So once again, I'll be back when I have 2 coats on the top of my bell. All right, so 2 coats of baby blue on the rim, 2 coats of black forest green on the top of the bell. You want to make sure that you loosen up that plunger. You don't want it to get glued shut with paint. Anyway, so what we need to do is, this is a zinnia, kinda. It's my version, right? And so what we need to do is we need to draw like a bullseye kind of on our bell, so we have a guide for our petals. So I'm going to take a chalk pencil, a white one, and I'm going to draw 4 rings, which is going to give me 5 rows. So it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to have kind of a little guide for where you're going to start your or pull your rows to. So it's about 1/4 inch maybe. I mean, and it can be adjusted as you pull the petals on. So you just want to go around with your chalk pencil and draw a little guideline for your first row. And then we're going to put another one. Sorry. Timu wants me to buy something. I haven't bought anything in a long time. So another one, about another 1/4 inch up. This gives me 2 rows. So just a nice little bullseye. It's going to look like a bullseye when I show you it from the top. And then we get another one in there. Oh, you can kind of see it. If you get your hand on your base prop your hand up, you can kind of do it pretty easy. And then we need one more. Not too hard, right? There's really not a pattern for this that you can, copy and apply. All right, there, we've got our bullseye. I think you can kind of see that. So what we want to do now is we want to get out a few colors. We want to get out some royal fuchsia, some cranberry wine, some moon yellow, and some warm white. So I'm going to get those 4 colors out onto my palette. I'm going to find my number 6 filbert, and I'll be back. All right, so we're going to start by painting on that bottom row, the one that has the most petals. And we're going to do that by picking up, I'm going to show you here. We're going to pick up some royal fuchsia on our filbert. Then we're going to tip into cranberry wine, and I'm going to tap it on my palette just a couple of times, 2 or 3, to blend that paint just a little. And then you don't have to worry so much about tails or anything, but you want to start, you want right above that lip, and you're just going to pull a petal, and I'm going to make it a little longer than what my little bullseye line is. All right, and so you're just going to continue to pull petals around with your number 6 filbert, and I'm going to go back and pick up more paint, but I might pick up more royal fuchsia a time or 2, and then I'll pick up some cranberry wine again, just to make the petals vary in color. I think you can see that here. This has a little bit more royal fuchsia. This has a little bit more cranberry wine. So we don't want the petals to all be the same, okay? And we're going to we'll change them up a little bit when we put the highlighting on them. Yes, they're going to get highlighted. So flatten that brush out. Make sure you get nice fat petals. You could use a larger filbert, but I thought that was it just made too fat of petals, not pillows. Thinking about pillows. I must be needing a nap. So just head on around. Royal fuchsia tipped in cranberry wine. And you do want to see a little bit of that green in between those petals. All right, almost done with the first row. And the 6 works fairly well to space those out. Okay, first row done. All right, so we're ready to go to our second and third rows, and they get painted the same way, but this time we're going to pick up royal fuchsia, and we're going to tip it in moon yellow and tap that on your palette to blend just a little bit. And I always like to start kind of like I'm laying brick, but it ends up not staying that way. I start in between 2 petals. So I'm going to do this second row, and I'm going to pick up a little more royal fuchsia. Yeah, that's good. You want it to have some moon yellow in it, but you don't want it to be too bright just yet. So I'm just going to go around, just like I did before, and add these petals with royal fuchsia tipped in moon yellow. And again, vary the colors a little bit so you don't get all the same bright yellow-ish petals. And if you end up not being in between petals on this row, it's okay. It's a flower. They all grow a little differently. Well, it's my interpretation of a flower, okay? Now, as we get closer to the top, of course, it gets a little easier because we're not putting on as many petals. And they don't have to be perfect. So that makes it even better. So this is going to be what we do for the next row also. Oh, that worked out pretty well for me. All right, so it's kind of looking pretty good. I'm going to just wipe my brush out for my third row and then reload it again with Royal Fuchsia plus Moon Yellow, tipped in Moon Yellow. You can see my ends aren't perfect, but it's okay, because we have another layer that goes on top of them, so it'll be okay. All right. So, let's see how we do. I always get excited when I can see the petals that I started with, because that means I'm almost done with the row. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. So, the last row, last couple of rows, we're going to paint with Royal Fuchsia tipped in Moon Yellow, and then pick up just a touch of warm white, okay? We just want to lighten it up just a hair more, not too much. And that's going to be our last two rows. And here I'm going to pick up a little more yellow so I can vary that color a little bit. It's going to be a very musical piece. Going to be ringing that bell every once in a while. You don't want too much warm white. You don't want it to get, what's the word I'm looking for? If you get too much warm white, it kind of loses the vibrancy, I want to say. It dulls it down a little bit. Now this last row that goes around the center, you're going to have to kind of work at it. So we're going to pick up Royal Fuchsia and warm white. And what I mean is it's going to take a little finagling. So if you have a heat gun, dry those other petals so that you can plant your finger on your bell and kind of use it as a prop. You don't want to wipe out your pretty petals you already have. And if you get onto your plunger, it's really okay. So this one is mostly royal fuchsia and more warm white, but not too terrible much more. So I'm getting on my plunger, but it's okay. I'm okay with that. But you can see how I'm planting my little finger so that I can paint that petal on. And just make sure you plant your finger past those petals that you're painting right now. I'll pick up a little more yellow on this side. So it doesn't have to get all the way next to the little nut that holds the plunger on, because we're going to put a center on there. All right. I think that looks lovely. I hope yours is looking the same. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to highlight these petals, and we're going to do that by using our 1/4-inch filbert comb brush, because we don't want to just float a highlight on there. We want it to continue to see how these petals here kind of have a little bit of texture. Well, we want to have that translated onto our other petals also. So the bottom row is just going to be royal fuchsia, thin it down. It's a comb brush, or if you're using a different brand than royal, you probably call it a rake. But it's a filbert, so we want that cattail, that curved tip. And I'm going to just kind of stroke. They don't have to be perfect. Some highlights with royal fuchsia on those petals, those lower petals that we did with mostly cranberry wine. We're just going to kind of make them a little more interesting. It's going to show up really good on some of them and not as good on others, depending on our the amount of cranberry wine that we have. All right, quick and easy, just a little bit of a highlight. The second and third rows, we're going to pick up a little bit of moon yellow and mix it in that royal fuchsia. And we're going to highlight our second and third rows with that. And this will show up a little bit more, depending on how much moon yellow you put in there. I think I got a little too much. That's better. So if you wanted to work both rows at the same time, you could, because it's the same color. And all this does is just give a little more texture to our petals. And don't worry if you get off the tip of them, because we're going to float some shading, of course. Of course. All right, I think I made it all the way around. And then the last two rows, we're going to do a highlight with moon yellow plus warm white. So I'm going to thin down some moon yellow and add a little warm white. It's probably 50-50, half and half. And just going to stroke a little highlight on those petals, those last 2 rows. Again, I'm using my pinky finger kind of as a prop. I love it when our zinnias are blooming. They line our front sidewalk and it looks so pretty. And if you wanted to do your zinnia in a different color, I mean, you could always do orange. Orange is beautiful. And yellow. You'd have to adjust your colors accordingly, right? All right, we're making good progress here. So we want to shade under those first few layers of petals with cranberry wine. And this is just a regular side load float. So I'm going to have to turn I'm going to start holding it this way now because I want to shade at the base of the petals. And it doesn't have to be every petal. You can just kind of move it around. And if I were you, I would start like at the 3rd row and work my way down a little bit, right? Because otherwise you're going to wipe out your shading on the bottom row. So it, like I said, it doesn't have to go everywhere, but anywhere you kind of need to separate petals. Like these 2 are the same color kind of. So I'm going to tuck a little cranberry wine in there. And I'll stick some down here. I didn't take my own advice. So you just go around and kind of randomly hit or miss. Add some shading with cranberry wine. Again, just adding some interest. Okay, I'll go right here. And then the rest of the rows, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to float the shading with royal fuchsia. So that's the remaining rows. So I'm going to start on that center row and add royal fuchsia. I'm going to probably go around all those petals because they're pretty light up there, so they might need a little bit more pink on them. Of course, you know, I have to make everything a little bit more involved than it probably needs to be. But that's me, can't help it. All right, so I'm going to tuck a little bit here and there on that 3rd row under my 2nd row. This doesn't take all that long. Right. So I want to pick out a few petals near the top, in the top 3 rows, I think, and I want to highlight the tips of those petals with some moon yellow. And it's going to go on bright, but it'll tone down. So I'm going to pick a couple of them here and there just to pop up a highlight a little bit. You can kind of fix the shape of your petals with this, or, you know, it just adds a little bit more interest to our flower. just a couple more here. I'm sorry. Start pulling it in close. All right. And then we're probably going to pick up a little bit of royal fuchsia and moon yellow and pop a few little highlights on that third and fourth row. I don't think I'm going to do it on the bottom row. I had something else planned for that. All right. So it doesn't take too much just to brighten up those petals a little bit. Probably need a couple over here. All right. I think that's looking pretty darn good. So we want to add a few little tints to the lower petals that kind of pull the flower and connect it to this blue rim. So I'm going to take some very well blended out baby blue. So I just want it to be a little tint. And I'm just going to add a little tint of baby blue, not everywhere, but on a few of those petals. And again, this is going to dry a little bit lighter also. So don't panic. But we just need to tie this base into the flower. So if you wanted to get up into the second row a little bit, that would be fine too. All right. A couple more. Maybe this guy. And if you don't want to do it at all, you don't have to. It's your piece. All right, so the flower center, we just want to kind of slip slap the plunger a little bit with a quick coat of, I'm just going to pick up royal fuchsia and pick up a little moon yellow. And I'm just going to, it's already got some pink on it. So I'm just going to slip slap. I need to take some of that water out. That center with that royal fuchsia and moon yellow. Not totally mixed together, but we need it to be a little pink. Okay? Now I'm going to take my number 4 liner and I'm going to tap in the center of the petal. I'm not going to add any water. That's right around the base of the plunger. I'm just going to tap in a circle, a very rough circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle of cranberry wine in there. Just to give me that little center to the flower. I thought I'd make this bell a little easier. No scrapbook paper involved. Then what I want to do is I want to get out my stylus. And I'm going to use the smaller end. I want to get out a little lamp black. I already have warm white there. And I'm going to add some dots of lamp black and warm white around this center, right on top of that cranberry wine I just did. Just to pop it up a little bit. So there's some warm white. I'm going to get in and do the same thing, same end with lamp black. So just a random circle of dots on that center. All right. Now this plunger top, I need to do something to it. So I'm going to take my stylus and I'm just going to randomly dot some moon yellow on it. And I'm going to randomly dot a little bit of warm white. I'm using the smaller end of my stylus. All right. So there we go. Now we have this little rim that's below that we avoided. And we want to line kind of like a wavy stripe around that with a liner brush and Irish moss. Again, really not a way to do a pattern. If you wanted to, you could take your chalk pencil and kind of line it on there. But I'm going to take my number 4 liner that I just used to tap in my center, and I'm just going to line. Now I can't put my finger on there, right, as a prop. I can put it on here though. Put it on these petals. So I'm just going to line kind of a wavy, thick, thin stripe. Doesn't have to be perfect, right? Unless you're real anal like I used to be. Not so anal anymore, which is a blessing. So just a nice little wavy stripe around that edge. Thank goodness it doesn't have to be perfect. I'd be in big trouble. Ooh. I was hoping I'd do better today, but not so much. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It'll be okay. And then you want to go through, and I still can't put my finger on that, but I'm just going to add a little leaf here and there. Hopefully yours will look more like a leaf than mine did. I didn't do both sides of the stripe because that would just be asking for way too much. So I just did wherever the stripe dipped down, I added a little leaf with Irish moss. So if you made teeny tiny waves, you're going to be putting on a lot of leaves. All right, almost there. And surprisingly, I do not shade and highlight these leaves, so you're in luck. One more. But I did highlight the stripe, and I'm going to do that with moon yellow. I'm going to thin it down just a little, not a lot. And wherever the stripe humps up, I'm going to line a little highlight with moon yellow. So just a quick little line. Hopefully not quite that bad. No idea what that is. It was interesting though. All right. I hope we're getting there. Yep, there we go. So that just brightened up that stripe a little bit. So any more details that we add to that stripe and those leaves is going to be done with our Pigma pen. So now we need to get to our little blue rim here. And what I want to do first is I want to dry brush some highlighting with warm white just to break that up a little bit. Maybe make it look like a little more like a sky. So just a quick scrub of warm white around that base. This isn't really adding any shape. Normally when we dry brush highlighting, we're trying to add shape and dimension. This time we're just kind of scrub some color on there to break up that blue. All right, so see, nice little highlight there. And now we need to do our little bee bodies. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your liner brush and you're going to pick up some moon yellow, no water. And you're going to set down, just set down an oval for the bee body, okay? And I like to make them, oops, got my hand in some warm white paint. I'm going to kind of vary. I'm going to make them point up and point down. Okay, so I'm just going to add some little ovals of moon yellow around this base to form my little bee bodies. Okay. And you can make them farther apart if you'd like, because then you don't have to do as many bees. Yeah, we're getting music. Oh, that's a really fat bee. Getting musical again. All right. So we have our little bee bodies around the bottom. So what I want to do now is I want to give them their little black heads. You know what? I'm going to give them their wings first. So with your liner brush, again, this is the number 4. I'm going to pick up warm white, no water, except what's in your brush from cleaning it out. And you want to kind of flatten it out a little bit. I think I have a little too much water in there. Just kind of flatten it out a little bit. And then you're going to paint on some little wings, and they don't even have to meet the body. They can stop before they get there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and paint the top wings first, and then I'll go back and paint the bottom wings. And you may want to be like this little guy. Maybe you only want the top wings. You know, it's completely up to you. They're your little bees. But just add some little wings with warm white. Need to be a little closer to the body. Thankfully, I didn't paint butterflies on the rim. So when we add the details with the pen, these are going to look so much better. Trust me. I've only lied to you a few times. All right. We're getting there. We're almost to the point where we get to add our details. And as I'm doing these, I'm thinking, they may only get wings on the top. That might just look cute enough. On the prototype, I did them both sides. But I like that too, so changing my mind. My prerogative, right? So now I'm going to hold my little belt by the other side and add my other wings. So this is probably the part that takes the longest, right? But once you just decide, okay, I'm just going to pop these on here, I'm not going to care too terrible much, it gets a little faster. I want you to care, but you don't have to knock yourself out and make them so perfect. All right. Almost forgot one. There always is one thing I forget. I always miss a petal or miss a wing. Unless it's chicken wings. I love chicken wings. Not too spicy. All right. So, oh yeah, that looks much better with 4 wings. And then you're just going to take your liner brush and pick up some lamp black. And you're going to decide which is the head, where the head's going to go. I'm going to put it right there. And just add a dot of lamp black for their little head. And I'm reloading my brush every time, just so I can get a nice dot. If you wanted to do it with your stylus, you could do it with your stylus too. But yeah, they're starting to look like little bees. I'm going to cheat and do 2 of them with 1 load. Just because I had a lot of paint on my brush. See, I told you. Forgot those wings. I'll have to go back. All right, my little bees have heads. And I'm going to go back over here and give this little bee its other 2 wings. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to let this dry, because we got some dots and stuff there. And then we're going to come back with our black Pigma pen. You could use an ultra fine point Sharpie. I prefer the Pigma pen because it's just a little bit more delicate. So I'm going to have this dry, and then I'll come back and we'll add our details. Okay, so I've got my 0.01 micron Pigma pen, and I'm going to be honest with you. I started to just check on my bees if I could do them. They're still a little wet, the yellow is. So I'm going to start up here at the top of my flower, and I'm just going to very casually and nervously outline each petal. I don't want it to be a nice straight outline, because that would, I don't know, it just wouldn't add to the cuteness or interest of this piece. So just go around each petal with a little outline, and that just makes each petal stand out a little bit more. Okay. Very nervous, which isn't hard to do with this. Again, I'm still using my finger as a prop, so I don't get too crazy with all the squiggles and lines. Okay. So I think you can see that it kind of just adds to the character of the flower. So I'm going to continue this through the remaining 3 rows, and then I'll be back. All right, I've got my petals outlined, and I just really think it just adds to the character of this piece. So now I'm going to work on this rim here, this lip. And what I want to do first is I want to give my leaves a center vein line. And hold your pen, light on the surface. You don't need to push too hard. And it's probably easier to pull from inside the leaf out than it is to pull from the out into the leaf, because of the ridge paint. That doesn't take too long. And then we're going to just kind of roughly, again, outline this line. And I'm telling you, it's very nervous and wiggly, just like the wavy line that we did initially. It's kind of, but I'm just highlighting how imperfect this little vine is that goes around here. I'm not even really trying to stay on the green vine. I'm really wiggling around. And then I want to outline my leaves a little. So it really doesn't take too long. Okay, so we're just adding some more character to our piece. At least that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it character. All right. So yeah, I'm liking that. All right, so I'm going to try my bees now. What we're going to do is we're going to give them some antenna. And some stripes. The stripes don't have to be straight either, right? And you want to outline their little wings and their little body. So everything gets a little outline. And this will go pretty fast. And you give them some little antenna and stripes. Okay. So I'll be back when I have all my little bees outlined. All right, all the little bees are outlined. So now all I want to do is take my Pigma pen and just kind of randomly add some dots. Just tiny little dots around the bees, in between the bees. And if you wanted to, you could do something to this edge here, but I don't really think it needs it. Oops, that wasn't a dot, that was a line, but oh well, it'll be okay. So there you go. Just a quick little bell. I'm sure these would sell at your spring craft shows. They'd be so cute on a teacher's desk. So I hope you enjoyed creating these with me. And I'll see you next month when I come up with something else for Halloween and Holiday Addicts Anonymous. I appreciate you being here.